Mom testifies against me in court to try to get me to pay child support for a baby that isn't mine because DNA doesn't matter. Family is family, but months later, I've finally revealed my ex-wife's disgusting truth and Mom is mad. BC The entire family is distancing themselves from her. I, 34M, never thought I'd be writing this post, but after everything that's happened, I need to get this off my chest. I met Sarah, fake name, during my junior year of college. I was working part-time at the campus bookstore when this gorgeous brunette came in looking for her textbooks. We got talking, and I completely messed up her order because I was so distracted. Instead of getting angry, she laughed and gave me her number. That's the Sarah I fell in love with, or thought I did. Our courtship was like something out of a romantic comedy. We'd spend hours in coffee shops, talking about our dreams. She wanted to open her own fitness studio. I was studying engineering and had big plans to start my own firm. We pushed each other to be better, to dream bigger. After graduation, we moved in together, and 2 years later, I proposed. The wedding was perfect. My mom cried during the ceremony, hugged Sarah, and welcomed her to the family by giving her my grandmother's bracelet, a family heirloom that was supposed to be passed down to the first daughter-in-law. That's how much my mom loved Sarah. They became inseparable after that. Looking back, there were red flags I chose to ignore. Sarah would sometimes disappear for hours, claiming she was at the gym. My mom would get defensive if I ever questioned Sarah's whereabouts. "She's working hard to stay fit for you," she'd say. "You should be grateful to have such a dedicated wife." The irony of those words haunts me now. 2 years into our marriage, Sarah started talking about babies. We agreed to start trying, and 3 months later, she was pregnant. I still remember the day she told me. She wrapped up a tiny pair of baby shoes and gave them to me as an early birthday present. I cried. My mom threw this elaborate gender reveal party where we found out we were having a girl. Sarah named her Emma immediately, saying she'd always known her first daughter would be called Emma. The pregnancy seemed to bring Sarah and my mom even closer. They went to every appointment together. When I offered to take time off work to go to the ultrasounds, Sarah would say, "Don't worry, your mom's taking me." They'd go shopping for baby clothes, design the nursery, and make plans. I felt left out, but my mom said I was being silly. "Women need to bond over these things," she'd say. "Focus on providing for your family." Emma was born on a rainy Tuesday morning. Sarah had insisted my mom be in the delivery room instead of me, claiming she'd be more comfortable that way. I was hurt, but I respected her wishes. When I first held Emma, something felt off. She had dark brown eyes, while Sarah and I both have blue eyes. Her skin tone was different too. But every time I mentioned these things, both Sarah and my mom would shut me down. "She looks just like my grandmother," Sarah would say. "Babies change as they grow," my mom would insist. "Are you trying to ruin this beautiful moment?" They'd both ask. The first few months with Emma were a blur of sleepless nights and diaper changes. Sarah seemed distant, always on her phone. When I'd try to help with the baby, she'd criticize everything I did. Wrong way to hold the bottle. Wrong way to burp her. Wrong way to change her. My mom would often stay over, taking care of Emma while Sarah rested. Looking back, I realized they were minimizing my time with the baby deliberately. The truth started unraveling 8 months after Emma's birth. Sarah had left her old iPad at home while going to the gym. Red flag number 1, she'd started going to the gym just 2 months after giving birth, which her doctor had advised against. She'd forgotten to sign out of iCloud, and messages kept popping up. I'm not proud of it, but I looked. What I found shattered my world. The messages went back years. Her personal trainer, Brad, wasn't just her trainer. They'd been having an affair since before our wedding. There were messages about their meetups, their plans, their future together. And then I found the messages from when she discovered she was pregnant. "Brad, is it mine?" "Sarah, of course it's yours. We haven't been intimate in months." "Brad, what are you going to do?" "Sarah, don't worry, I have a plan. His mom will help." My hands were shaking so bad I could barely scroll, but I kept reading. There were messages between Sarah and my mom, discussing the pregnancy, discussing me. They had a whole plan worked out. My mom's exact words, "He's always wanted to be a father. Once the baby's here, he won't care about DNA. And if he does cause problems, I'll handle it." I threw up when I read that. The next few days were a blur. I copied everything, sent it to my email, and contacted a lawyer. When I confronted Sarah, she didn't even seem that sorry. She just sat there, cold as ice, and said, "Your mom's right. DNA doesn't matter. You're Emma's father in every way that counts." I filed for divorce the next day. That's when things got ugly. Sarah and my mom launched a full-scale war against me. They told everyone I was having a mental breakdown, that I was paranoid, that I was abandoning my family over ridiculous suspicions. My mom went to every family member with this story about how I'd changed, become controlling and suspicious. She'd cry about how Sarah was such a wonderful mother and how I was trying to destroy an innocent child's life. The court proceedings were a nightmare. Sarah's lawyer, paid for by her wealthy parents, tried to block the DNA test, claiming it wasn't in the child's best interest. My own mother testified against me, weeping on the stand about how I'd been there for every moment of Emma's life, how I'd chosen to be her father, how DNA shouldn't matter because family is about love, not biology. Some of her testimony still rings in my ears. My son was there when Emma took her first breath. He chose to be her father the moment he held her. You can't just unchoose being a parent because things got difficult. I raised him better than this. I raised him to understand that family sticks together, no matter what. Emma calls him Dada. How can he walk away from that? What kind of man abandons his child? The judge, thankfully, saw through the manipulation and ordered the DNA test. The results came back exactly as I expected, 0% chance I was the father. But that didn't stop them. If anything, it made them more vicious. My mom went on a crusade. She'd show up at family events with Sarah and Emma, playing the doting grandmother. She'd post long Facebook rants about men who abandon their responsibilities and the true meaning of fatherhood. She even started a family support group for non-biological parents, using my story, twisted to her version, as an example of what not to do. The family largely sided with them at first. My cousin Mark, who'd been my best friend since childhood, stopped speaking to me. My Aunt Patricia, who'd practically helped raise me, told me she was disappointed in the man I'd become. At family gatherings, which I was no longer invited to, they'd all comfort my mom and Sarah, talking about how they'd help support Emma since her father had abandoned her. But I'm an engineer by trade and nature. When something doesn't add up, I investigate. That nagging feeling about my mom's involvement wouldn't leave me alone. Why would she betray her own son so completely? The answer, as always, followed the money. I hired a private investigator, Mike, who specialized in financial fraud. He was expensive, but worth every penny. Over 3 months, he uncovered a web of deceit that went deeper than I'd imagined. My mom hadn't just known about the affair, she'd facilitated it. She'd let Sarah and Brad use her vacation house for their meetups. She'd cover for Sarah when they went on secret weekends together, telling me Sarah was helping her with house projects. But the real shock came when Mike traced the money. Sarah's parents, the Andersons, are old money. Like, really old money. They own half the real estate in our city's downtown. They were horrified at the idea of their daughter being involved in a cheating scandal. So they'd been paying people off to keep things quiet. My mom had received regular payments, disguised as gifts and loans, totaling over $200,000 during my marriage to Sarah. The payments increased significantly after Emma was born. There were emails discussing the arrangements. Mrs. Anderson, we need to ensure this situation remains contained. Your son seems to be asking questions. My mom, don't worry, I can handle him. He's always been sensitive about family. I know exactly which buttons to push. They'd even set up a trust fund for my mom, managed by the Andersons' family lawyer, which would continue paying her as long as she helped maintain their version of events. She hadn't just sold me out, she'd put a price tag on her betrayal and negotiated the best deal she could get. The evidence Mike gathered was extensive: bank transfers, emails, text messages, photos of Sarah and Brad at my mom's vacation house, even recordings of phone conversations, legally obtained from public places, where my mom coached Sarah on what to say in court. I sat on this information for weeks, struggling with what to do. These people had tried to manipulate me into raising another man's child while painting me as the villain when I discovered the truth. They'd turned my family against me, destroyed relationships I'd had since childhood, and made me question my own sanity. The annual Christmas gathering at my Aunt Martha's house was coming up. It's this huge family tradition where everyone gets together for a 3-day celebration. I wasn't invited, of course, but my cousin Amy, one of the few who still talked to me, kept me updated. My mom, Sarah, and Emma would be there, along with Brad, who they were now presenting as Emma's uncle to the family. That's when I decided enough was enough. On Christmas Eve, right as everyone would be gathering for the traditional family dinner, I had my lawyer send out a comprehensive email to every member of my extended family. The subject line was simple: the truth about Emma. The email contained everything: all the evidence Mike had gathered, the proof of the payments, the emails showing my mom's involvement from the beginning, the recordings of her coaching Sarah, the trust fund documents. Everything. I included a personal note. For the past year, you've all believed I abandoned my family. The truth is, my family abandoned me. My mother chose money over her own son. She helped cover up Sarah's affair, knowing Emma wasn't mine before she was even born. She took payments to help manipulate me into raising another man's child. When that failed, she helped destroy my reputation and turned you all against me. I'm not sending this for revenge. I'm sending this because you deserve to know the truth. Judge me as you will, but judge me based on facts, not lies. What happened next was like watching dominoes fall. My phone started blowing up within minutes. Amy told me the Christmas dinner turned into chaos. My Aunt Martha, reading the evidence on her tablet, stood up and called my mom a disgrace to the family. Uncle Pete, who hadn't spoken to me in months, walked out when my mom tried to claim she'd been protecting the family. Cousin Mark threw his wine in Brad's face when he tried to defend Sarah. The Andersons' reaction was even more dramatic. Sarah's father, learning that his payments to my mom had been documented, cut off all contact with her immediately. The trust fund was dissolved. Sarah's mother actually called me to apologize, saying she'd had no idea about the payments, that had all been arranged by Sarah and her father. My mom tried everything to save face. She claimed she'd been manipulated by Sarah. She said she only wanted what was best for Emma. She tried to paint herself as a victim of circumstances. But the evidence was too clear, too detailed. The emails where she discussed manipulating me, the recordings where she coached Sarah on what to say in court, the bank transfers, it all painted a picture of calculated betrayal. The family exodus was total. My Aunt Martha banned her from all future family gatherings. Cousin Mark, who'd been one of my biggest critics, showed up at my apartment with a case of beer and cried while apologizing. Uncle Pete and Aunt Susan canceled the cruise they'd planned to take with my mom. Sarah and Brad moved away shortly after, unable to face the social fallout. Last I heard, they're expecting twins. The irony isn't lost on me. My mom still tries to maintain a relationship with Emma through social media, but Sarah's mother has blocked her on everything. The most recent development happened last week. My mom showed up at my apartment, looking nothing like the confident woman who'd testified against me in court. She was crying, saying she'd lost everything, her friends, her family, her reputation. She actually tried to guilt me by talking about her sacrifices as a single mother, how she'd raised me alone after my dad died, how she'd given up everything for me. I let her talk. Then I just said, DNA doesn't matter, right? Go find another son. And close the door. The healing process is slow, but it's happening. I'm in therapy, working through the betrayal. The family has rallied around me in ways I never expected. Cousin Amy helped me move into a new apartment. Uncle Pete offered me a job at his construction company when my old firm became too toxic. My mom had spread rumors there too. Aunt Martha calls every Sunday just to check on me. I've learned some hard lessons through all this. DNA might not make a family, but trust, loyalty, and honesty do. My mom failed on all 3 counts. The irony is, in trying to preserve what she saw as family, and her financial interests, she destroyed her real family bonds. As for Emma, sometimes I wonder about her. Not because I miss her, I never really got the chance to bond with her as a father, but because I hope she grows up with better examples of honesty and integrity than her mother and my mom provided. Edit 1. Wow, this blew up overnight. Thank you for all the support and awards. To answer some common questions. 1. Yes, I'm in therapy. It helps a lot, especially dealing with the maternal betrayal aspect. 2. No, I don't miss Emma. Some people might judge me for this, but I found out the truth when she was still very young, and they had actively prevented me from bonding with her. 3. My lawyer has all the evidence secured in multiple locations. 4. For those asking about legal action against my mom, I've considered it, but honestly, I just want to move on with my life. 5. Yes, Brad and Sarah are still together. No, I don't care what happens to them anymore. 6. Several people have offered to be my new mom. Thank you, but I'm good. Edit 2. Some people are asking if this is real because nobody could be this cruel. Trust me, I wish I was making this up. Money and the fear of losing status in the family can make people do terrible things. Final update. Hey Reddit. Your support on my previous posts has been overwhelming, and I can't thank you enough. Life has taken some interesting turns, both good and bad, so let me catch you all up. First, the Sarah/Brad/Emma situation. They moved to Colorado last month. Sarah's parents finally cut her off completely after discovering she'd been embezzling from the family business to support Brad's failed protein shake startup. Karma really doesn't miss anybody, does it? I heard through mutual friends that they're struggling, but that's not my circus anymore. Emma is doing well in preschool, and honestly, that's all I care about. She's an innocent kid who deserves happiness, regardless of how she came into this world. Now, for the main update, my mom. Grab your popcorn, because this gets wild. About 2 months ago, my mom started showing up at my workplace. She'd wait in the parking lot with tears streaming down her face, trying to catch me as I left. My coworkers started calling her the crying lady. She'd bring old photo albums, birthday cards I'd made her when I was 5, anything to appeal to my emotions. Security eventually had to ban her from the property. Then she tried a new tactic. She went to my therapist's office. How she found out where I go to therapy is another issue I'm dealing with, and tried to schedule appointments in the time slot right after mine, hoping to accidentally run into me. My therapist, who's been amazing through all this, shut that down immediately and helped me file a harassment report. But the real kicker? She actually hired a skywriter. Yes, you read that right. A skywriter. On my birthday, I walked out of my apartment to find "I'm sorry son, please forgive mom" written across the sky. My neighbors thought it was romantic until I explained it was my mother's latest manipulation attempt. I have to admit, I laughed for the first time in months about this whole situation. It was just so absurd. The family has remained firmly on my side. Aunt Martha, mom's sister, finally told me the full story about their childhood. Apparently, my mom has a history of manipulating situations for financial gain. She'd done something similar to their brother years ago, which is why he moved to Australia and cut contact. This information helped me realize this wasn't about me, it's just who she is. Now for the good news, I met someone. Her name is Rachel, and before anyone asks, yes, she knows everything. We met at a rock climbing gym. My therapist suggested I take up new hobbies, and she's honestly been a breath of fresh air. She's a child psychologist, which means she understands trauma and boundaries better than most. We've been dating for 4 months, taking things slow. She's never pushed me to get over it or forgive and forget. Instead, she's helped me understand that it's okay to mourn the mother I thought I had while accepting the reality of who she really is. Rachel also helped me do something I'd been putting off. I finally went through all my childhood photos and memories. We spent a weekend sorting through everything, and she helped me create a memory box of genuine happy moments while disposing of things that felt tainted by recent events. It was surprisingly therapeutic. The biggest change, though? I'm moving. I've accepted a job offer in Seattle. It's a fresh start, away from all the drama and memories. Rachel's actually applying for positions there too, but we're both clear that our relationships need to develop independently of our location choices. As for my mom's financial situation, karma wasn't done yet. Remember that vacation house where Sarah and Brad used to meet? Turns out, some of those gifts from the Andersons were used to pay the mortgage. When their payments stopped, she couldn't keep up. It's being foreclosed on. She tried to guilt me into helping her save it, sending flying monkeys, distant relatives I didn't even know existed, to plead her case. I blocked them all. Uncle Pete, who's been like a father to me through all this, helped me set up a trust for my future kids. He said, "Let's make sure the next generation has better protections than you did." It was his way of showing me that family, real family, looks out for each other without expecting anything in return. Last week, I received a hand-delivered letter from my mom. Inside was my grandfather's watch, the one she'd promised me on my 18th birthday but never gave me, and a 20-page letter. I haven't read it. The watch is sitting in a drawer, and the letter remains unopened. Maybe someday I'll want to read it, but right now, I'm at peace with my decision to move forward. To everyone who's followed this story and supported me, thank you. Your messages and comments helped me feel less alone during the darkest parts of this journey. I won't be updating this story again, it's time to close this chapter. Life moves forward, and so should we. To anyone going through something similar, it gets better. Build your boundaries, hold them firm, and remember that you're not responsible for other people's choices. Peace out, Reddit. Thanks for being part of my journey.